Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're acting as neurological detectives to investigate the invisible forces driving our digital habits. We're going to explore exactly how social media is literally rewiring your brain, specifically zeroing in on the fascinating and, honestly, kind of alarming role that dopamine plays in our everyday lives. Let's get right into it.
So, you know that universal feeling of the infinite scroll, right? You pick up your phone just to check one quick message and boom, suddenly 45 minutes have totally vanished. Look, it happens to the absolute best of us. But why? We really need to ask the ultimate behavioral mystery of the modern age. Why is it so incredibly hard to just stop scrolling even when we literally want to? Well, spoiler alert, it's not just a lack of willpower, it's actually a matter of profound neurobiology.
Section 1. The endless scroll.
To solve this mystery, we first need to look at the scene of the crime. The entire digital ecosystem we interact with is fundamentally built around this endless scroll. And we aren't just talking about a niche problem affecting a handful of highly distracted people. We're talking about billions of people globally. Billions of us struggling with the exact same involuntary habit of constantly checking our devices. When billions of human brains all react the exact same way to a piece of technology, we have to look past personal failure and start scrutinizing the psychological architecture of the platforms themselves.
Section 2. The dopamine reward loop. And that brings us right to our prime suspect, dopamine. It's this incredibly powerful but deeply misunderstood chemical in your brain that basically dictates your motivation, your habits, and your desires. Now, for a long time, pop culture has kind of sold us on the idea that dopamine is just the pleasure chemical. But actually, scratch that. It's not quite accurate. Dopamine is really a neurotransmitter that drives the intense craving and anticipation of a potential reward. It's literally the engine of reward prediction. Your brain releases it when you just expect something good is about to happen, completely compelling you to take action.
Just think about the exact moment you hear a notification sound. You know, that little ding or that sudden buzz in your pocket? Before you even see the screen, your heart rate shifts just a tiny bit. That sudden spike in your attention, that's your brain releasing dopamine. It's expecting something new. Maybe it's a text from a friend, a like on a post, or breaking news. That mere anticipation completely secures your focus before you've even unlocked the device. It's wild.
Section 3. Hijacking the brain. So how does this all build into a broader system? Well, social media essentially weaponizes the classic psychological habit loop to deliberately hijack our neurobiology. The designers of these platforms understand the psychology of dopamine perfectly, and they use it to create these deeply compelling behavioral loops. It always starts with a cue, like that notification sound or, honestly, even just a sudden feeling of boredom. That cue triggers the routine, which is opening the app and starting to scroll. And finally, you hit the reward, social validation. Maybe it's likes, comments, or just a really entertaining video. That quick dopamine hit reinforces the whole loop, teaching your brain to automatically repeat the process the second you feel that initial cue.
But you might be wondering, why does this loop never get boring? Like, why don't we just get sick of it? It comes down to this brilliant, albeit sneaky concept called variable rewards. Every single time you pull down to refresh your feed, you never quite know what you're going to get. Will it be a hilarious video, a frustrating news article, a completely boring ad, or a message from someone you really care about? By making that reward utterly unpredictable, platforms send your dopamine production into absolute overdrive. It's the exact same psychological mechanism used in a casino slot machine, completely ensuring you'll always pull the lever just one more time.
Section 4. The behavioral fallout.
Okay, so what actually happens to us when our neurochemistry is just constantly flooded by this cycle of instant gratification and anticipation? Simply put, the human brain was absolutely not built for it. We are seeing severe neurological fallout happening in real time. For instance, your prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for logical decision-making and impulse control, it gets totally overwhelmed, which makes it infinitely harder to resist the urge to keep scrolling. Meanwhile, your amygdala, which processes all your emotions, goes into complete hyperdrive. This leads to emotional dependence and definitely increased anxiety. And your attention networks? They are essentially trained to crave constant distraction, which drastically shortens your patience and your overall attention span. And because we are highly social creatures, this constant algorithmic feeding forces us into these endless, exhausting comparison loops. When we engage in upward comparison, which is basically measuring our behind-the-scenes, messy reality against everyone else's perfectly curated highlight reels, it breeds envy, lower self-esteem, and really poor body image. Conversely, downward comparison creates this sense of false superiority and completely distorts our identity formation. We end up constantly assessing our own human worth based on a totally arbitrary digital metric.
The culmination of all this dopamine rewiring leads to a whole host of profound behavioral shifts. We're looking at a society experiencing shortened attention spans, significantly heightened anxiety, the relentless fear of missing out or FOMO, validation addiction, and severe sleep disruption. And I really want to emphasize here, this is especially concerning for children and teenagers. Their brains, their emotional regulation, and their identities are literally still actively developing under the heavy weight of these exact algorithms.
Section 5. Taking back control. Now, I know that all sounds pretty daunting, but here is the genuinely good news. Your brain possesses neuroplasticity. That means it can adapt and, more importantly, it can heal. Just as social media can wire our brains for distraction, we can absolutely rewire our minds back to a healthy baseline. To secure your brain against future breaches, you need to actively implement practical strategies to break that habit loop. Start really small. Disable those unnecessary notifications to entirely remove the dopamine cue. Practice time blocking to actually give your brain some deep, focused rest. Design your environment so your phone literally isn't the first thing you see when you wake up. By implementing habit replacement, like swapping scrolling for reading a book or taking a quick walk, you actively start retraining your brain's reward system.
Above all else, it is absolutely vital to remember the underlying business model of the digital age. In the modern attention economy, platforms are locked in a fierce, non-stop competition. To the engagement optimization algorithms running these apps, you are not the customer. Your time and your attention on their platform constitute the ultimate product they are selling to advertisers.
So we've explored how dopamine drives the infinite scroll, how our brains get utterly hijacked by variable rewards, and the very real behavioral fallout we experience every single day. I'm going to leave you with this final, provocative thought to consider the very next time you hear a ding and instinctively reach for your phone. Your attention is their currency. How will you choose to spend it today? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, keep questioning, and definitely take care of your brain.